Hello, and welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast, the show where we help you establish your author brand, increase the size of your audience, and sell more books. I'm Lindsay Baroker, and I'm here with Jeffrey Poole and Joe Lalo, and it's just the three of us this week. Guests are getting sparse as the holidays approach, so you're lucky to have all three of us. I hope you feel lucky. We'll see
December's
after.
typically a busy month.
We'll see how lucky you feel after we do our show. But we're going to talk about a couple things today. One of the big topics is keeping old books selling. Then we're going to go into like when to hire help, or at least when we've hired help. And finally, we're going to talk about should you be where your readers are? There have been some discussions lately on, I think we have Chris Fox to blame for this from what I've seen on the forums. He mentions going to some of the reader hangouts and not necessarily participating, but lurking to see what your target audience is talking about and what they're desiring in books. But we'll get into that more later. So why don't we start with the news, guys? Anybody have any news they want to share?
Releasing my second mystery and just hit the publish button not that long ago. I've also got my third mystery. I just looked at the little stats on it. It's about 75% of the way done. My wife has said, if you're going to release this for Christmas, you need to step on it. So I'm going to make it. I didn't quite make the Halloween themed one, but I'm making the Christmas one. So that's what I'm going to be working on.
As for me, when this goes up, I think there will be 1 day left in the Leading Ladies bundle, of which Lindsay and I are a part. So if you'd like to read stuff by us, then go check that out. I just finished a revision on my NaNoWriMo novel, which is a little bit behind schedule, but there's been some distractions within my life recently, which are non-book related, that sort of push that along, but still on track for its being sent to the editor when it's supposed to. And we'll be talking about editors later. And the other thing that was cool is a long time ago, like back in February, I wrote a
long time ago. That you say that's February.
Hey,
I'm thinking, okay, back in 2010,
2011. No. For me, yeah, if a project that I started in February that has not moved forward is a project that's been it's a long time. And that is a children's book that I wrote, and it was going to be a picture book, and I had to find time for an artist to do essentially 32 illustrations. And sometimes it's hard to find time for an artist to do one illustration. So 32 in a row, tricky. But she has been working on it for a month, and the first official that was all thumbnailing. It's an interesting process. I guess one of these days we can talk about that. But the thumbnailing is finished, and now the first real deal illustration is coming out. She's tweeted a couple of pictures of the style development on it. It's super exciting. So I'm looking forward to working on and releasing a children's book, not for Christmas obviously, but for next year, and we'll see how that goes. I'm enjoying the process because I'm a big art fan.
Okay, a question real quick there. When you hire an artist to do, what'd you say, 32 sketches?
32. It's a 32-page book.
Does she possibly say, well, buy 6 from me and get the 7th free, sort of thing?
It ends up being you're not buying individual sketches. You're buying a chunk of their time. So I bought 8 weeks for the thumbnail process, and then an additional 4 weeks for the actual illustration. And hopefully she doesn't go over that, because then we're going to be hitting up against my intended budget. Although this would not be the first time that I've gone over budget on a project.
Is this going to be the most expensive book you've produced so far?
Most expensive? No. Well, okay. The budget that I have for my book releases is $5,000. I never hit $5,000. I might hit $5,000 on this. That said, not the most expensive book I've done, because I self-produced an audiobook with professional talent that was over $7,000. And I have made $200 off of that. So it's going to be a very, very long tail before that pays for itself. But hey, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, I've heard that with the one person I've talked to who was also did the whole cast, not just one narrator, but different voices, different people for all the characters. And I think he's waiting for that to turn profitable still several years later.
It's going to be a while for me, but we never know. It just takes somebody to get interested in the first book, and then eventually it'll all filter through, right?
We'll hope for you.
Yeah.
And you get to talk about the children's book again on the show if you manage to sell more than 7 copies. But,
Yeah, if I make it into the black and out of the red on that one, then I'll be able to talk. Hey, guess what I did? And otherwise, it'll just be the third book on the list of I guess I won't do that again type books.
you got to have some of those.
Yep.
All right, for my news, it's only been a couple weeks since we talked, just the 3 of us. So I think I was actually publishing my last Fallen Empire novel at that time. So things are all wrapped up with that. And I'm working on a new fantasy novel, which my poor fantasy people, it's been almost a year since I published anything and had anything to say to that list. I've emailed them a few times with promises that things are coming. So I'm working on that fantasy novel, and then I'm going to plan a spin-off series and really focus again on sci-fi. I'm planning to do another 6-book series in 2017. Well, I don't know if I'd say that's where the money is. That's where I've been going into Kindle Unlimited, KDP Select, and that really helped, I think, keep things selling a lot more than my typical fantasy series stuff. So I'm going to, go for another one. I have lots more ideas for that universe. And I think I mentioned before, I know I did because I invited y'all to participate, that they're doing a Kindle Worlds of the Fallen Empire universe. So that's another reason I wanted to write another series in it, so I can really keep some momentum, keep some eyes on it, so that the people who are going to write novellas and novels in that universe will, I'll still have stuff selling at the same time and hopefully still be bringing in a lot of interested readers.
I'm one of those people who will be writing those.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As soon as I as soon as I send off the NaNoWriMo thing, I'll be getting into the prep work for that.
Cool. I'm really excited to see, like, I've seen people do fan fiction before of my stuff, and it's really flattering, but it'll be cool to see, like, actual, I think most of the people who are doing it have at least published a couple books, so they're, maybe a step above, at least in experience level with the fan fiction people. So hopefully we'll see them to completion, complete stories, and not just little scenes of such and such characters getting it on. And you guys know how fan fiction can be.
Yeah.
Characters you never intended to have romances suddenly have romances.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about fan fiction is you get to be like, well, I never would have thought of that. That had to have been written by a fan because it would not have been written by the creator.
Are you reading that like, that's new? Hopefully that's not a suggestion on what to put in the book, because gonna have to veto that one.
Yeah. Other news, we're going to be talking about keeping older series selling, as I mentioned, but in an effort to do that, I am putting together a box set with a new novella, so I have something for my readers who have already read all my book ones of everything. And it's in a box set with my 4 book ones of 4 different series. And the box set is called Beginnings, which actually works for the new novella too. And I put it out on pre-order. I'm not really pushing the pre-order. I think I have a couple hundred orders so far, but I wanted to have it out there so that these readers who have been waiting forever for new fantasy from me have something to order and think about until the next novel is ready. But my goal with this is to hopefully, I'm going to put some advertising money in it when it comes out. I think February 28th is the release date I gave myself. And hopefully try to get like some, a few thousand new readers that have never done, read my stuff before to give it a try. And, even if they don't, even if only some of them like one series and get into it, I think it'll be a good way to get more readers checking out like my series that have been closed out for 3 years and where I've already advertised the book ones a lot of places. So it's tough for me to really get traction when I try to advertise them now. So I will report on how that actually does, probably in around March or so. Might as well give it a try, and I'm making it 99 cents all through the pre-order and probably during the launch week. So it's actually a really good deal, and in order to give my readers something to make them want to purchase it and, hopefully sell more copies and make it appear higher in the rankings on Amazon and such, I've not only got the new novella, but I'm also writing an introduction to each book in the different series, and I'm going to talk about what I was thinking, how the series came to be, things like that. I don't usually do that sort of thing, so I think it'll be kind of interesting for the real fans that have enjoyed the series. Last little bit of news is I'm doing a short story for an anthology. This is also in my Fallen Empire world. It's a honeymoon story. It takes place a couple months after the last book. And the reason I'm mentioning it actually is because it's going into an anthology, and the person who invited me to participate on the anthology is going to be next week's guest. She's Patrice Fitzgerald. She's actually done quite a few anthologies now, and I get the impression she's actually making money doing it. So we're going to ask her, I don't know about you guys, but even though I hate reading like submissions and things like that, I always think, it'd be kind of neat to be like the editor and put together an anthology. And I think a lot of authors have that secret ambition. But the question is how to actually
do it.
I think if you could get an assistant to read your slush pile, or in her case, I think she's inviting, they're kind of by invitation. So that's probably a good way to kind of cherry pick, this person already has a little bit of a fan base. And so, but we'll find out more about that next week. So a teaser for you guys to listen during the holidays. All right. Any news or any comments you guys want to make before I move on?
I think that about covers it.
All right, Jeff, I was going to ask you, are you getting any momentum trying to release the 2 mystery books so close together, or is it just kind of meeting your goals?
Well, right now the first one was just doing so not so bad, and I've released books that do a lot better, but anyways, the second one, now that I've released it, I've actually went into the first one and did, like, since it's still in KDB, and I went, okay, let's do one of these free day promotions, because I don't really use the advertising stuff that much, and that starts tomorrow. So should be able to let you know next week how that looks.
All right, cool. Yeah, I've done the free days a few times. No surprise, BookBub moves the needle in a humongous way, and with the other sites, you're kind of happy if you get like 1,000 downloads. With BookBub, you get tens of thousands, and I don't know. You'll have to let us know how it goes if you don't schedule a promo. I've had pretty lackluster results myself these days, if there's not a promo wrapped around it.
Yeah, I will let you know.
All right, we got a couple listener questions. Jared asks, when writing a book series, would it be beneficial to use the same title with a 2 or 3 after it and then a subtitle, or would a standalone title be better for drawing in new readers? He has a follow-up question, but go ahead and chime in on that.
I would think, as long as you get the branding down, I wouldn't necessarily use like the same title and just add a 2 or 3 at it, but because so many people are thinking of series nowadays. Like, okay, well, there's book 1 of the series. What's the name of this particular book called? And if you're just saying this is the title, title 1, title 2, title 3, yeah, it's one way to be able to group all the books together. But me personally, I would be like adding the graphics like in my own Tales of Lantari section. I've got that banner that goes across the top that just says Tales of Lantari Volume, whatever it happens to be there, and then the title of the book below it. So you can actually physically look at it and say, okay, I see that these things are all together. So my answer to that would be is I wouldn't personally do that, no.
Yeah, likewise. Like a lot of book marketing is just seeing what other people are doing, not because you're trying to rip off with what other people are doing, but like there are reasons why there are standards. And while movies are going to have the name of the movie plus a 2 or a 3, like Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, you don't see that a lot with books. In fact, I can't draw to mind any book that has the title just with a 2 after it. Normally, it's the other way around. Like instead of having, Book of Deacon 2, the Great Convergence, it's usually the Great Convergence, the Book of Deacon Volume 2, like he was saying. So I think if you were to sort of do the name of the original with a 2 after it and a 3 and a 4, and particularly once you get up to like 6, 7, 8, 9, I think it's going to stand out as being unusual, which isn't always a good thing. So I would definitely stick with individual titles and then the subtitle where you connect it to the rest of the series.
I would think the only disclaimer to that would be is if by chance you happen to sell enough, like a certain a British writer who had a nice boy wizard series, you can just refer Harry Potter too. Oh yeah, we know what that means.
You can't control what the fans are going to do, and if it gets to a point where there's going to be a shorthand, but you want your book to look like it belongs on the shelf with the other books, and to a degree that means you should follow similar naming structures. And that's my opinion. I'm not necessarily certain that it's the best way to go, but that's what I would go with.
All right, I agree with the guys, and I have occasionally seen people do it opposite on Amazon. You have to be careful because you run into it going off the screen Like if you have a long title followed by, if your series name is long followed by the book name, up in the title bar or in the search results, you won't necessarily get the whole spiel in there. So it might help to differentiate between your own books. And I would say the exception for this is I would actually do this for a serial. And I did do it. My Ruby Lionstrike pen name has, yeah, it's this goofy name. I can't even say it. Has Frost Station Alpha is the name of the series, and then I've got like Frost Station Alpha 1 Hunter or Hunted, whatever it is. I can't remember. I have too many books out, you guys. Frost Station Alpha 2 something. So, maybe with a series, it's not a bad idea. In that case, I had one-word titles of each individual thing, so they weren't too long. You'll know what I mean if you see something with a whole bunch of keywords and then you don't even get the full result. Also, Amazon and some of the other sites, Apple, I think, have it where you can actually, there's a space to put in the series title now, and that should appear. So you only need your book title, technically, and then it should appear. Sometimes if it doesn't, I'll freak out and go in and like make the subtitle the series title. I've noticed the series thing has gotten better on Amazon, but it can still be a little wonky and take a while for like a book to show up on your series page, things like that.
Let me ask you something, Lindsay. How often have you actually said your your pseudonym out
3
loud?
times max.
Guys like look like you're just so hesitant. Like, is that it? Is it?
Yes, I can barely pronounce and spell my own name, so I'm doing good. So I'm not the perkiest at night either. We should record in the mornings when I have my latte next to me. All right, the second follow-up question was, would very similar covers in a book series be better for past readers to recognize as well as book sales?
I would say if it works for you, great. Otherwise, I don't necessarily like seeing the very same cover over and over and over. But I've seen some, like the science fiction covers where they'll have like just pictures of pretty much the same backdrop of stars, the same little graphics to identify that it's part of the series. Maybe the ship's in a different location or a different angle or whatnot. I mean, just pretty much the same thing, but it all depends if it works for you. If it works, great. Otherwise, me personally, I would differentiate them a little bit at least.
Yeah, this is one where I have seen some people succeed with this. Like you'll often see the same artwork but with a color shift from book to book. So I think the important thing is definitely for your fans to recognize a book as part of a series. So you want to have a visual theme to your covers, and if that means the similar artwork with minor changes in coloring or positioning, all that, that's one thing. I have the same artist drawing all of my covers, and so my covers are visually similar just in their style, but he's also differentiated his style in the 3 series that he does the covers for. So like, the sci-fi cover is going to have one of the main characters on the cover plus one of the plot elements on the cover, and you start to get a formula. So definitely a strong theme from cover to cover, and if you achieve that with very similar covers, then I think that's fine. We've had plenty of people on the show, I think, that I've commented on their covers being a theme in that way.
Right, I definitely make sure that they're clearly branded, same font, same kind of wrapper around the picture if you've got one, and thing throughout the series. I have seen people, as Joe was saying, make it and do well with kind of using almost the same color for everything in the series, especially if it's like a symbol-driven type thing. Like epic fantasy, maybe you've got like crossed swords and a shield or something like that, and I've seen people make it that way. Having a cool cover on that first book is definitely going to be the most important thing, and then fans are probably going to be less fussy if you're not going as extravagant on the next ones. With a serial, I did the same. Save money, especially if you're releasing the serialized pieces at 99 cents. Just use the same or very similar cover. I think we changed the font color on the titles between the series. Otherwise, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's possible, especially if you're saving money, and that's totally understandable if this is like your first books, your first series, and you don't have the money to do like a big custom artwork on each one. It's probably not going to hurt you that much in the long run, but spend all the money on book 1 at least get a really cool cover that you're going to duplicate over and over. All right, do you guys have any more to say on that?
I don't know.
Cool.
All right, second question. Speaking of pen names, D asks, um, I believe this is for me because I have a pen name, he says, or she says, I'm not sure. I believe I have heard you use a display, heard you can use a display pseudonym on Amazon. Is this correct? How effective is it for keeping you anonymous? I may want to write some romance that I don't want my family to know about, and I'm concerned that since I'll have to give away my real information for tax purposes, that the information will be displayed in some way. Let me answer that first. Amazon will not. Actually, most of the stores will not. 2 years ago, when I put my Ruby books all over the place, the only thing that came out was on Kobo. They showed up as like not a new release by Lindsay Buroker, but like you know, however their algorithms work to show like, oh, you bought this by Lindsay Buroker, you might like this. And then my Ruby books were showing up there. So if anybody's really paying attention, they might have thought, huh, that's a little weird, because they were in different genres and that sort of thing. I think everywhere else was very good about, and you know, this was 2 years ago, Kobo may not do that anymore either. Everywhere else was really good about not displaying any information about your name. You know, you've got your tax information for the Amazon and Barnes & Noble, those places, and they will not show what's on your, you know, they won't put secretly this is by anywhere on the book page. So you're safe there. And the rest of the question was, I heard that Drafted Digital can add another layer of anonymity, but can you put your book in Kindle Unlimited when using a third party like Drafted Digital? No. If you want to be in Kindle Unlimited, you have to be on Amazon only. The Drafted Digital might have kept the Kobo thing I mentioned from happening. So that might not be a bad idea if you're going wide with your pen name. I think I answered that. Do you guys have any experience with pen names that you want to chime in?
I certainly don't. Nope. I've contemplated it, but I've never gone through with it.
No, nor have I. I probably should have on more than one occasion, but no, I've not yet looked into pen names. Perhaps in the future.
Yeah, maybe if I make a real drastic genre hop or something, like maybe before I actually put this out with my name on it, we'll just try a different name instead, see how well it works.
One thing I will say, if you're going to do a website for your pen name, make sure to pay for the privacy. You know, there's like an extra $10 or something you can pay to keep your who is information private. Otherwise, people can look you up and see who owns the domain name. Another option is just to use like a Blogger account or something, if you know, depending on how much you want to do for your pen name. I started a website that I updated a year ago or so. So it's up to you. But if you want to do a website, you might want to make it, you know, pay the extra for the domain privacy thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things in GoDaddy where as you're trying to just buy a name for it's one of those 1.5 billion different optional extras they try and put in there, like make it private, and which essentially says it takes your name off the contact and just puts the generic, in this case, GoDaddy account name on there. So yeah, I've done it before, and I'm really not too terribly concerned. If you really dig, you're going to find me out there. It's not hard. But if you're that paranoid, you don't want to be found in, yes, there are things you can do, especially, think about it, when you sign up for anything on the internet, unless you give them a bogus name, your name is out there. So be careful.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense to be worried if, you know, your employer or something might frown upon, you know, I've heard of people who like are kindergarten teachers or something, and here they're writing erotica on the side. You know, that might not be cool with the employer. So I totally understand wanting to make sure to keep that all private.
That would be one of those circumstances. Then yes, you would pay the extra $3 a year to hide your information from the general public.
Yeah, either that or start a publishing imprint. Although, I don't know, that may still be, people maybe will find your name. Yeah, pay for the privacy thing on the domain name. All right, getting into our topic, how to keep older books selling, or maybe kind of rekindling books that you aren't that old but didn't sell that well and you're kind of hoping they would sell better. As I said in the intro, this has been on my mind because I've really shifted to the sci-fi this last year, and as I was saying, I want to do it, you kind of have it be the focus next year too. So, but I have these 30 fantasy novels and I don't want them to all stop selling. So I've been like, okay, how can I keep those selling? So I have a list I put together. Do you guys have any thoughts on kind of keeping older books selling before I jump into my little list here?
Well, I was looking at my thoughts. I see quite a few of them listed on your list, so I'll wait till we hit each topic before I'll chime in there.
Yeah, likewise. I think think most of the stuff that I do, and a lot of my my day-to-day business is stuff that I wrote a long time ago, is listed there. So yeah, I'll add points as they're valuable.
All right, cool. Well, I just want to say before we jump in, it's definitely worth doing this. Every book you have is an asset that can keep selling indefinitely, but as you probably found out yourself, you have to keep putting a little effort into it. Otherwise, it's very easy for the sales to just eventually drop to zero, and it seems like it's easier to keep things going if you tend it a little bit and do some promos here or there than to try to drag it back up from having lost all momentum. It seems like on Amazon, you kind of books will stick at different sales levels with a little help, but once they fall off, there's like, oh, let's get those big BookBub ads, or let's really plan a big promo thing. But the first thing, and I think all three of us have done, is having a perma-free book or a low-priced book one, maybe 99 cents, and either keeping it always kind of an introductory price that's almost, perma-free obviously is not a barrier at all. 99 cents is a little more of a barrier, but still less than $4 or $5. And these days, I'll get some sales. I don't know, you guys have to tell me too how your experience is. I'll still get some sales of my perma-frees, not sales, downloads on the various sites. But I've found that, as we've kind of talked about this before, I really need to do some promos in order to draw the eyes. I just looked at my Amazon thing, and I've had 300 downloads of my Balanced on the Blade's Edge, my first Dragon Blood book this month, and we're about halfway through the month. So it's not horrible. I still get downloads, but I feel like you have to promo, otherwise it's easy to fall into oblivion even with a perma-free book right now.
Oh, yeah, obviously, it's the same sort of thing. If your book one, the number, especially if it's perma-free, if the downloads start dropping, well, right off the bat, there's not many, it's contagious. Not as much people are going to be able to read the book and therefore be inclined to buy book 2, book 3, book 4, and so forth. So, but what I've done a few times is, I've kept it perma-free. My book one's perma-free for the longest time. Just recently, I yanked one of them from perma-free, put it back to normal, gave it about a month, turned around, made it perma-free again, and the interest picked up for a good long while. So it's just something else you can do to try and keep the interest there, because I don't know exactly how Amazon's algorithms work, but it seems to like it when something's on perma-free, then it disappears. They're like, oh my God, there's something new on perma-free, and it kind of, I don't know if it pushes it to the top of the list or whatever the case may be, but it works for me.
Yeah, likewise, I've found that if like it actually happened for the first time by accident. My book mysteriously fell off perma-free, and I got it back on, and then I had a huge surge of interest again. I think it's like scrapers. Like there are bots that will search for books that just became free, and then they'll just sort of you'll see a blast of tweets from suspiciously similar accounts saying free on Amazon, and then people click through, and I think that's where that comes from. But every little bit helps, and I have to agree that without promotion, it used to be like I don't know what the ratio is anymore. I'd have to look back, but I used to get easily over 100 downloads of my free books combined over the course of a single day, and now looking at what I have now, I on the average day I have between 20 and 30 downloads for my main free book. So still doing pretty decent, but it does not, the needle does not move significantly from there unless I'm doing a promo. So you still need a little bit more upkeep on the perma-free than had been in the past.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there with perma-free books now too, so that doesn't help. And then, as we've talked about before, Amazon is kind of hidden. You have to go clicking around to find the top 100 free for any particular category. And there's enough of competition now that it can be kind of hard even to stay in the top 100 free. You expect it to be hard to stay in the top 100 paid, but a lot of people doing the perma-free thing. So I agree with the guys that even though I've just kind of left I have 2 books that are perma-free, I figure it's kind of the equivalent of having something in the library. People can check them out, and if they want to go on and buy the series, that's awesome. But hey, even if they didn't, they got something, hopefully a good read for free. And I think it was David Gaughran in his Let's Get digital, and let's get visible book. He mentioned price pulsing, which is kind of what we were talking about with going back and forth from paid to free, and that can make a lot of sense too. The only reason I haven't really tried it, especially with my Emperor's Edge book, is because it's out there on Wattpad, it's out there on all the pirate sites, it's out there other places like Scribd, places I've forgotten that I've put it since then. So I figure, why charge anybody when it's out on the web too for free? But I think that's not a bad idea for sure. Just maybe go back to, even if you only go to 99 cents and it's still a good deal, and then drop it to free now and then. All right, next thing I have down that you can do is just, I've talked about before, I've done box sets of my Emperor's Edge series and my Dragon Blood series of books 1 through 3 in the series. And that's another way, not only is it, you can change the cover, I've got a dog pestering me, excuse me. He thinks I'm talking to him. You can, if it qualifies, you can put it in different categories. So it's like another place out there that you can have your book 1 where somebody might stumble on it. I've done different blurbs for the box sets than I do for the book 1, so that this blurb may appeal to this group of people, this blurb may appeal to the other group. And same thing, we'll do the kind of price pulsing. Usually I'll have the box set at, I usually start them out at close to full price, close to what, like $8.99 or something, whatever the 3 books would be, maybe $1 off. And then if I can get a BookBub ad, always ideal, I'll drop it down to 99 cents. And in my case, in both of these series, there's 5 more full price books people can go on to buy. So I don't mind having those 3 for 99 cents for a limited time. And you'll find with the box sets that, especially with BookBub, you probably have a better shot of getting an ad. We've talked about it before. They've talked about it in interviews that they like to give their readers a really good deal. So if a book's coming down from $8.99 all the way to 99 cents, it's probably more appealing to them. You guys have any thoughts? Have you done the box sets, and has it helped keep your older series selling?
I've done a box set of my very first series, and I did the same thing where I was like, okay, well, if this one's free, let's say this one is going to be X amount of dollars, and the total should be here, but try to entice a little bit, and I'll drop it down a little bit, and I've got some sales off the thing there, but every great once in a while I run a sale on that thing there, and I realize I'm losing a little bit because obviously it's losing. I dropped it the same thing. I drop it to as low as it'll go, 99 cents. But people buy the thing there, and then again I turn around, I've got another series, my other series, which is directly linked to that one. There's another 6 books I can go ahead and purchase there, which usually I see the sales follow through with it, so I'm all for it. It works good for me. My Tales of Lantari series, I don't have a box set yet for the first 3. I'm thinking about doing, so I'll have to let you guys know.
Yeah, I did a box set for my fantasy, and I haven't put out a 4th book in my steampunk, but I'll probably do a box set for that. And I have 4 books out in my sci-fi, and I have a box set ready. I'm not releasing it until the beginning of the year. I definitely find them useful. I find them more useful if you throw in at least one new piece of writing, like a short story, novella, or something. Not that you want to jab your pre-existing fans for another purchase of the 3 stories just so they can get the bonus. But number one, it's so that you can, let's say you can actually price it a little bit higher than the combined cost of the other 3 books if you wanted to. I also find that because I price very low, having a box set is a thing that I can discount down to a price that's still profitable. Like I typically price my my early stuff is all priced at $2.99, and I find that if I don't, you can't. If you discount $2.99 at all, then you lose a big chunk of your Amazon income because you fall out of the magic zone for price tiers. But if you have something that's $9, you can drop it down to $2.99, still a heck of a deal, and you're still making the 70% royalty. So that's another thing I like about it.
Yeah, I've also not done a box set of my science fiction series. I usually wait until sales have dropped off. I think this is a perfect strategy for kind of what we're talking about. You've kind of lost that initial momentum from your launch, and you're looking for a way to kind of rejuvenate the series and start getting more sales again. I probably will put out the sci-fi box set pretty soon at like $8.99 or $9.99 or whatever makes sense. But I'll wait. They're still selling thanks to being in KU, I'm sure. There's still, I think all 8 books are under 5,000 in the Amazon store. So yeah, this will be for when actually, my plan is when I eventually go wide, I keep planning to do that, and Amazon keeps like enticing me to stay in KU. They're like my drug dealer. I'm going to be in Prime Reading. I got invited to that thing with one of my books for the next quarter or something. So I'm like, all right, I guess I can do one more quarter in KDP Select. I'll let you guys know how that goes. I got paid for it, or I will get paid for it, but I don't think I get paid for the borrows is how it works. But anyway, I would use the box set 99-cent thing for once the momentum is worn off. And I've seen people drop the box set all the way to free too, which is an option. It might be a price pulsing thing you want to do. I haven't done that yet myself. I'm maybe considering it in the future because I've done the Dragon Blood box set on BookBub twice, 2 years in a row at 99 cents. So I don't know how many people are left in the list that haven't bought it yet that are interested. Maybe free would be something to consider. Again, probably not worth it unless you have a whole bunch more books in the series for people to buy.
One other small additional thing with box sets that is weird with BookBub. I don't know if the rules are still this way, but for a while the rules were, you can only run an ad once every 6 months or so for a specific book. But if you ran an ad for, say, a book one, and then say a month later, you drop the price of a box set and try to get an ad for that, the rules were they would run an ad within the 6-month cooldown period for the box set, but then it restarted it on every book that was in that box set. So it happened with me, the Book of Deacon, where I ran a Book of Deacon ad, and then a month later I ran the Book of Deacon box set ad, and then I couldn't run any of the books in the box set until 6 months after I ran the box set ad. So it was a weird opportunity to push the same series twice within a reasonably short amount of time. So that's another weird benefit, I suppose, of box sets.
Yeah, it's basically you get 2 shots to advertise your book one of your series starter, and I would say now good luck to anybody getting a BookBub ad within 6 months for the same book anyway. But
it's very hard. This happened a while ago for me.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the reason I do this. It's just a whole nother way to advertise your book one. And like I said, if you maybe change up the blurb and stuff, it can appeal to maybe a different set of readers who never knew that they were dying to read your book one until they saw this other version of your blurb. All right, next on the list, we've got cross-promoting with other authors to do multi-author boxed sets. It's kind of like everything we just talked about with box sets times whatever, 10 people you've got promoting them when they drop to 99 cents if you've got 10 people in the box set. So, and it's basically a chance for you to get your work out to everybody, all these authors' mailing lists. And in addition, if the book sticks high enough on Amazon, you could attract a whole bunch of new readers. So I love these box sets. I pretty much participate anytime I'm asked to do one. I don't if I have to write something new. I'm totally willing to write new short stories if I get invited into anthologies like this, but I wouldn't. I've had some of them where they want a new novel just for the box set, and in my case, I would be losing a lot of money for that. So, because I can sell a novel at $5 and to however many thousand people buy it, versus getting 10 cents or 3 cents for the sale of each box set. But again, a lot of the time they just say like, hey, do you want to put one of your books in this box set that's epic fantasy themed or urban fantasy? And they don't necessarily care if it's a 5-year-old book. So I've done The Emperor's Edge now and probably in like 5 different box sets, I would say. Some of them free, some of them 99 cents. And I love it. It's a great way. I think they've probably seen their heyday. They were super popular 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe they're a little saturated now, but I still think it's a great way to, readers love it. They get 10 books for 99 cents. So it's a great deal for them. And it's a great deal for you because if they like your book, they'll go on and buy the others in the series. You guys have thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Is if you're asked to join, or else if you're thinking about creating one of these anthology sets yourself, and yeah, it's good. I've participated in a few of them, and been nothing but a good thing for me every single time. Not only can you introduce your readers to people that you personally like, then hey, you're also opening up your stuff to all their readers, and how is it not a good thing?
Yeah, I still get emails probably once or twice a month from people who discovered me because of a couple of the bundles that book one of one of my series has been in. And also, unlike much of the stuff on this list, you can do this with a standalone. Like most of the stuff we're saying is for series books, but you can put, if it's the only book you have, you can still cross promote and a thing like that. There's not a whole lot of sell through to other books necessarily if you don't have any others, but you can still benefit from becoming more known by cross promoting with other authors' audiences.
Yeah, and all these authors have the same goal, so they'll often set things up like give you an what do you call it, afterward or whatever. It's like, here's my mailing list, sign up, here's my web page. So like if you did have a standalone, but maybe you've got this short story they get if they sign up for your mailing list, you know, they're usually willing to put that at the end of your book in the box set. So it's and like I said before, if you're not getting invited to any of these, go out and make one. It's that's kind of how you get, it's kind of funny, you kind of get in a circuit once you're like, oh, that person was, you know, suddenly whenever somebody's thinking of like, I want to do a box set, who do I know that could be in the box set? And if you've been in one with someone else, then you'll probably get invited again. All right, I will say box sets are a little challenging right now because half the people you think of are wide and half the people are in KDP Select. So you either need to do a KDP Select box set where everybody's book is exclusive with Amazon and it can't be out there anywhere else, or you all have to agree to be wide so nobody's book can be exclusive with Amazon. So it's a little challenging to put them together right now just to find people that are all wide or are all in Amazon. All right, next on the list, this is kind of for those of you who are doing perma-free. I kind of mentioned this already. There are other places you can have your book besides on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. We've talked about before, Wattpad actually gets quite a large readership. It can be hard to gain momentum on there. The readership seems to skew towards young adults. So for those of you who are writing like YA, fantasy, or sci-fi, it might be worth a try putting your book up there. Even if you don't put much effort into networking and, you know, getting to know other authors and readers on Wattpad, just having it there, you might find that you get a little extra traffic. I have my first 3 Emperor's Edge books on there. I was only going to put one on, and people asked for more, so I put a couple more on. And I'll still get comments to the email I hardly ever check, so I don't actually answer them. I'm a bad Wattpad author, but I'll still get comments, and every now and then I'll get someone to say, "Yeah, I first found you on Wattpad, and I ended up buying all the books in your series." So if your book's free, you can have it there. I think you can have it on Scribd, however you say it, .com. There may be some other spots now. I haven't looked for a long time. Back in 2011 or whatever, I think when I put my first book perma-free, I was trying to put it out there everywhere I could. And I also made an audiobook version and put it on podiobooks.com, which is, they put it out on Apple and the podcasting places, so people can kind of listen to your book the same way and subscribe to it the way they would a podcast. So it costs money, obviously, to produce an audiobook, either that or you have to do it yourself, so it takes time. But the one thing about that is fewer people do it because it does take money or time. So you'll find that there's less competition. I still get people that are like, I found your first book out on Podiobooks or out on Apple in the podcast area and really liked it and went on to get more of them. Have you guys put your perma-frees out anywhere else besides on the bookstores?
I haven't. I've heard a lot of people talk about Wattpad, so I was going to ask you. You said you've got your 3 books of your Emperor's Edge in Wattpad right now. Is that where you're just uploading the book, then you're pretty much giving it away to the general public? Is that it?
You are. It's basically, it's up on the web. They read it, they click through their browser, or there's a Wattpad app where they can read it on their phone. And if you have it perma-free anyway, you might as well put it there. It can be found by the search engines, you know, because that site's quite an authority site. So you never know when somebody might stumble on it. Usually to really get a lot of traffic, you probably need to be in that demographic for those younger readers and put some effort into, you know, you can kind of network and comment on other people's stories and maybe they'll come comment on yours, that kind of thing. Hopefully we should probably get somebody on from Wattpad. I will put that on my to-do list because they've actually opened up to some of their more popular authors that get a lot of page views. They started some advertising program not that long ago where you can get however many page views you get with their ads on it, you get a little money. So I'll have to try to see if we can get somebody on and talk about those options. Could be great too for younger authors. It's one of those sites where you can kind of get to know other authors and they have forums and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to give that a try.
All right, next up. Even though your series or your standalone may be years old at this point and you weren't necessarily planning to do any more on it, writing a new installment, even if it's just a short story, that can also be a way to kind of rejuvenate the interest, especially with your, if you put it out to your mailing list. And you might be surprised, I keep getting asked, in my case, if I'm going to do another Emperor's Edge story. And it's hard because I kind of wrap things up with the main characters, and there are some options, but the more time that passes, the harder it is for me to go back and work on an older series. I tend to be excited about the new stuff. And in my case, I'd have to go read 10 books because it's now been long enough that I don't remember everything that was going on, all the character nuances and that kind of thing.
Occupational hazard, right?
Yeah, but yeah, you write a lot of books and after a while they become kind of a blur. But I figure if I ever did do it, you kind of don't realize over 5 years or whatever just how many people have actually read those books. So you might, if you put a new release in an old series, you might be surprised at how well it can do. And you can maybe market it as a standalone or something so that it's not necessarily for people to have read the previous series. So you're basically launching a brand new book or brand new short story and tying it into the old series, maybe the same characters and stuff. So new readers and old readers can enjoy it.
Yeah, I've done the short stories I did actually deliberately as incentive for people to sign up for the mailing list. I'll say, hey, if I'll get enough people interested, I'll go ahead and write a new short story in this series and make it available for people who sign up. Or if you tell me you get a bunch of people to sign up, I'll send you the link to it. That sort of thing works out well. And not only does it entice people to join your mailing list, I see a bump in the sales from the old series. Like, okay, well that series hasn't done good in a while, but that's reasonable right now. So it works.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I only have 3 series or whatever. I definitely feel like the next installment in any series is a great way to push earlier ones in that series. Plus, it's a great just going back to the box set. It's a great way to almost debut a box set is to catch up so that you can read on this new one. Like you might have developed a lot of fans through other series since then. Now you do a new installment to a series that other fans might not know about, and they will suddenly be interested. Well, if I'm going to read this new one, I have to read all the others, and now your box set gets a boost, or all of the previous individual books. So it synergizes well with some of the other stuff we said.
You actually did it with your Book of Deacon series, right? Wasn't it a couple years later that you did a 4th book, and you've done like a prequel too? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it might have been 2 full years between book 3 and book 4. And yeah, the 4th one was my most successful recent book, and it definitely rekindled interest in the first 3 installments.
All right, I may have to write myself a new Sicarius and Amorous story. We'll see. As soon as I get time to read those first 10 over again. All right, next up is just a kind of a common sense thing, is just to mention your old books to your newsletter on occasion. You don't necessarily have to say like, oh, here's my 10 backlist books if you want to buy them. But if you're running a sale, you can mention it to them, or just if something happened in your email and you're thinking of some reason and it's like, oh, it reminds me of my first novel that I wrote, So some of your older fans will have read everything, but other ones who came on board with your newest series, maybe they haven't had a real reason to check out your older stuff yet. So that is something to consider.
Yeah, that's where that we were talking about that books to read, a couple episodes ago, where you set up the links and pretty much all you just put that link in your newsletter. Said, hey, I'm running a sale on number 4 of this particular series. It usually goes for $3.99, $4.99. Look at this, it's 99 cents now. There's all the places it's for sale. Knock yourself out with it. Yeah, it works.
All right, Joe's staying muted, so I guess he has nothing to say on this subject.
I was actually checking to see how long it was between books 3 and 4. It was 4 years between book 3 and book 4, but I had written a prequel and a bunch of other stuff that was in the setting.
Wow, that's a long time between books.
Yeah, so it turns out your release frequency sometimes if you don't have a pen name, release frequency as an author can keep you in business, not just within a single series.
With that long amount of time between titles, did you have to go back and read your own story?
No. Well, the trilogy that was like the one that lived in my head for 10 years, so that is still pretty much written in ink on my brain. So it was pretty easy to go on from 4. Oddly enough, I'm going to be writing 5 this year, and I'm probably going to have to reread 4.
Yeah, my first couple books are more solidly imprinted in my mind. I think just because they took so much longer to write too. But yeah, same thing. They were in the works a lot longer, so I understand.
I think that's true for everybody. My first book, that's the one I kind of dabbled on and off with for 4 or 5 years, but I could recite that sucker word for word there. But you tell me, I mean, I'm reading my own, skimming through my own most recent release. I'm like, I don't remember writing that. Hey, that's pretty good. Cool. So, oh well.
Yeah, I recently on my road trip listened to Encrypted and Decrypted, which are books I wrote, gosh, 6, 7 years ago now, I don't know, on an audiobook, and I was like, wow, I'm actually entertained by this. Usually I read my own stuff, I'm like, oh God, this is painful. But so that was fun. Someday on my deathbed, I'll listen to my audiobooks.
Or read your own stuff if you're having trouble going to sleep. Man, that puts me to, I'm sorry to say, my own stuff puts me to sleep faster than anything. I was like, okay, I can go this, I can check this, check for typos, and okay, we're done. I'm tired. So.
All right, last bullet point here on this little topic that's become a big topic is just if it's been a while and the sales have really dwindled, you may try rebranding them and relaunching the books with new covers and new blurbs. We've already talked about running sales and getting advertisements, but especially if you were like a lot of us getting started, you didn't have that much money to spend on the covers. They may not be amazing and up to the standards of what's kind of coming out today from indie authors. So if people have told you your covers are kind of drab, or it hasn't, or just even if your covers were good, but you've had the same covers for 5 years, it may be something to consider, because you'll definitely see that traditional publishers do this. Usually with them, they're doing like a second print run or something, but they will get brand new covers for older books that they still want to believe that it's worth putting some money behind them. Jeff has wandered off, I think, for visual aids. You have something to share with us, Jeff?
Yeah, perfect example when you're trying to rebrand. This is what one of my old series. This is what the cover looked like. If I get the glare off of it here. This is what the actual cover looked like. It was kind of hard to tell, and then I went through and learned how to do it myself. But this is where I added like the banner. Let me if I can get the glare off of here. There we go. And I added the banner there, and I made everything uniform all the way across. But I left the back image the same. So in essence, I left the cover the same, but just rebranded it with all the same graphics for every single one across, and it's helped tremendously.
Yeah, I've if you've, like we've talked about before, if you've had a couple of BookBub ads, or not, maybe you can get BookBub, but you've run it through eReader News Today and FreeBooksy or whatever, all the kind of main sites, and you're afraid people just have seen your book, they're tired of your book, they don't care about your book anymore. A new cover can really get somebody to just think it's a new book and take a second look at it. And it may be a time too to try a new blurb if you've had the same blurb the whole time. You never know. Sometimes with blurbs, we think they're amazing, they're perfect for the book, but maybe something that highlights the tropes that are popular in the genre may be more effective than something that's 100% authentic to the book. I've definitely read blurbs that are kind of like, you go back and read them later and like, that's not entirely what happened in the book, but hey, it sold me, it got me to buy the book, so it must have worked.
Yeah, if you're going to work on redoing the cover or rebranding the cover, might as well consider redoing the blurb as well.
All right, any final thoughts?
Just to say that the reason I am able to do this full time is because I rebranded the trilogy. When I got picked up by Pixel of Ink, which used to do with one of those free book scrapers, is when I made my first reasonable paycheck from the books, and that all of that money went into new covers, and they've been paying dividends ever since. They're basically the brand for my entire writing career. So yeah, that was a year and a half after I released them. I rebranded them with new covers, and they started actually making money.
Right. We're talking about, we've been kind of talking about books that we've finished that maybe they sold well once and don't sell well now just because the luster is worn off. But it can also be, this can be something to try. Like if you've written 3 books and they're not really selling, give it a rebranding effort before abandoning the series. You never know. Something like the cover can make a huge difference. All right, moving on. We promised we would also discuss this, so we better talk about it. When do we hire help and what do we delegate to freelancers? Joe, this was kind of your idea for a topic. Do you want to spearhead it and talk about what you do?
Sure. I'll go through and we can sort of I'll go through all of them, and then we can talk about what we do and don't freelance afterward. But so I find, especially since initially my covers were made by me and didn't do that well, I always freelance art for my covers. I think I edit all of my stuff is edited by a professional editor. Typo hunting, I obviously do some of that myself, but I have elusive beta readers to do this. I'm going through these very quickly because we are almost at the hour. Formatting, I do myself. I do all of my own ebook formatting and all of my own paperback formatting. But I know plenty of people do. We'll talk about whether or not you do. Hiring assistants for marketing, I don't do that yet. So we can see about you guys. Also, voice talent for audiobooks. I have never tried to narrate my own audiobook. I know a lot of people who would, but not me. I'm not so great at the reading out loud. But that's where I land on all of these. How about you guys?
Let's see. Covers. I did my very first novel when I first released it. Did the cover myself. I don't recommend doing your cover yourself because I think I sold 4 in the first couple months. So I was like, you know what? This is something you'll invest the money. It will help you out here. Editing, by all means, you need an editor. Do not try and self-edit yourself because you will miss stuff. You as the author will have a tendency to skim over your own stuff. And to this day, I still will pick up a book. I can go through it. I'll find a typo, which just annoys the hell out of me. But unfortunately, that's what happens there. So get an editor. Typo hunting, I've got, like Joe, I've got my list of beta readers that'll go through and thankfully point out the things I've done, make myself look like a dumbass, and prevent me from looking like a dumbass to the general public. Formatting, I do my own ebook formatting. I do my own print formatting because I've done it enough times, so it doesn't bother me. And I wish I was at the spot where I could hire myself a marketing person or an assistant to handle all the normal drudgery stuff there, but not there yet. And Lindsay's still muted.
Okay, I was reading the list and unable to unmute myself. All right, I'm pretty much similar to the guys. A lot of this is, covers and editing. I think you're going to want to hire out just because you can get a more professional package in most cases that way. Formatting you can do yourself, as the guys mentioned. My editor does it for me, so I'm fine with that. Or my cover designers do the paperback formatting for me as part of creating the paperback covers. The one perk to doing it yourself is it's easier to do updates. I tend to feel bad about, I got a typo. Can you? I don't want to necessarily email people and say, like, can you please redo the paperback formatting? So I tend to save them up and batch process things. I should have a VA. I know people who make less that have, part-time or full-time VAs. In my case, I've just been kind of put off by the idea of training someone because unless they're actually another author in the biz and doing their own books, which is often, these are the people who become author virtual assistants, I should say, is what that stands for. It's kind of, I just imagine it being a lot of work to train somebody. And, I don't spend that much time each month on it. I do wonder when people have VAs, if they're just kind of making up tasks for them that are the kind of thing that maybe don't result in a lot of money earned back. But I don't know. I've heard other people say they don't regret it at all. They love having a VA. I'm still at the point where I'm like, yeah, all the money's for me. I don't want to pay a salary for someone. But I've definitely done a lot of, I don't know, I guess freelance, getting people for just one-off gigs. I've hired people to like proofread my audiobooks, the ones I'm producing through ACX. I don't want to listen to my own audiobooks until at least if it's 5 years old, maybe then it's interesting to listen to and I'm on a road trip. But I do want to make sure they sound professional and don't have any errors in them. So I will hire people for that. I've hired people for research things. So for me right now, I'm happy just doing one-offs. I have a handful of people I kind of go to for this thing, rather than, and then of course you have to extra accounting, bookkeeping stuff if you're actually paying somebody, or you're going to have to pay benefits to them above 20 hours a week, things like that. I have not really wanted to deal with yet. I very much got that artist mentality, and I don't mind the marketing. I like making money. That's all good. But a lot of the stuff that other people enjoy doing, I don't know. Does anybody enjoy bookkeeping who didn't become an accountant? I don't know, but I haven't yet. If any of you out there are listening and have VAs, feel free to come by the comments and let us know how it's going and what kind of things they do for you. Most of the people I know have them doing marketing stuff and sometimes uploading their books for them. All these things you can do yourself, but there is a point where you have to ask yourself, I have 2 dogs roaming around here like it's dog park time or something. It's 8 p.m.
Buzzards circling a kill, is that it?
Sorry for the clacking toenails. But the thing with the VA is that you're freeing up your own time once you do get somebody trained. So it's worth considering, especially if you can write more books because you have somebody else handling some of this stuff. I kind of feel with my own stuff, there's only so many hours a day I can write. And then in the evenings, I do the things like scheduling promos and whatever less demanding, mentally, creatively demanding things are for me to do. So that's my thought on it. Do you guys have any more thoughts on when you hire people, hiring people?
Nothing additional to add, no.
Just that I guess it's worth pointing out accounting. I have an accountant, and that's like I did it myself for a long time, and now I'm very happy to offload that to somebody who's much better at it than I am and calls me stupid for the things I did in the past, which were stupid. And also, I guess with the virtual assistant, I guess it all comes down to if you find yourself spending a lot of time on something that's reasonably repetitive and does not require your own creative voice behind it, that's the kind of task that a virtual assistant should have. So, I wouldn't say hire one to write blog posts on my personal blog, but maybe add copy, stuff like that. I've never tried it yet. That's still, I don't want to say I'm a control freak, but I am nervous of someone else's mistake making me look bad. So I'd rather make all my own mistakes in that regard.
Yeah, you're trusting someone else to make you look good, and maybe it's just a trust issue. It's like, if anyone's going to make me look like a dumbass, unfortunately, it's going to be me. I don't want to get mad and rip someone out for making me look like a dumbass. But.
Yeah. Plus, I'm very cheap with that sort of thing. I will gamble money on interesting business ventures, but when it comes to like, I could do that myself, and then I'll do it myself.
I'm not very trusting either. I realize that most of the things I would want a VA to do, I'd have to give them all my passwords to all my stuff. And I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure I really want other people looking at my Amazon KDP dashboard, So, but we're weirdos. Like I said, I've definitely talked to a lot of people that have hired VAs and have really enjoyed it. But I would say with the repetitive stuff, if you're doing a lot of repetitive stuff that is, see if it's actually resulting in sales, because I don't think I do anything real repetitive. That I don't hang out on a lot of the forums, and I don't do a whole lot of social media. I do my occasional Facebook posts and tweets, but they're kind of things I don't mind sharing, like snippets of what I'm writing. If you're putting a lot of time into social media and it's not, figure out if it's actually effective. I feel like most social media is just kind of for your existing fans and to be out there and to put new stuff out to keep people happy in between book releases. I don't feel like most of it is super effective for actually selling books, but maybe other people are having different experiences. All right, on that note, last thing that we promised to talk about, and I put this in here because I've seen it come up a couple times in forums lately, just kind of like, should you be hanging out where your readers hang out? And by that I mean sites like Reddit or Goodreads. They have fantasy and science fiction specific areas. If you go hunting, you can find like steampunk forums, epic fantasy forums. Your people may be on the World of Warcraft forums, especially next month we've got somebody coming on to talk about lit RPG, which he'll have to explain to us. But sounds like you're kind of going for that gamer group. So should you be hanging out in these places? Should you try to become a part of the community or just lurk and see what they're interested in? What do you guys think about this?
That almost suggests that you're trying to find out where people are talking about you, and then kind of sit back in the shadows and spy on them, see what they're saying about you. I mean, I would say if you're invited and people are talking about it, it's like, hey, I happen to know this guy here. I've talked with him on Facebook. Let's see if we can get him in here. You can answer a few questions or whatnot. But I don't know. I'd feel kind of leery about hanging around in the shadows and or also like, hey, this is my book. We're talking about it. What can I tell you about it? Just I probably wouldn't unless invited.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple different layers of this. If you are like doing right to market type stuff, I can certainly see researching the market by going to see what people are talking about. If you are legitimately a part of that community, then be a part of that community. If you start writing fantasy because you're a huge fantasy fan, there's no reason to stay away from a community. But I think the thing that you should never ever do is just show up to self-promote. I think that you will get a lot of bad will from the people in that community, and it's a community. The word's going to spread, So be a part of the community in that you are actually a part of it, or lurk in the shadows just to find out what sort of the things the market are into. But mostly, I think it's most important just to be genuine.
Yep, don't be creepy.
Oh no, Joe, don't be creepy. I don't know. I would say this is the kind of thing that can easily become a time sink. So we've talked about before, like doing book reviews and things like that to establish a name or create a blog and get traffic there. If it's something you would do anyway, by all means, join the community. It can be amazing if you're actually a part of a community. Those people, especially if it's like your first book, and you've known these people for a couple of years, you didn't just show up to promote your book, like we were saying, sometimes all it takes is like 10, 20 people going out and buying your book that first week to kind of get the ball rolling. If you have written a book that's kind of to the market and satisfies the tropes or satisfies what these people in this community are enjoying, you never know. We've definitely had guests on where just like 10, 20 purchases right away can get the ball rolling on Amazon. And after that, maybe they'll stick up there in their top 100 for their category. Reddit, I've heard, is a pretty good place. All these places will drive you out with pitchforks if you do self-promote. So the idea is to be a contributing member of the community. Some of these places will let you, like especially forums, you can often have your book link or your link to your website in your signature. And usually in that case, those are cool. Nobody's going to complain about that. Same thing with like going to the writer forums and participating there. You can often have your link to your stuff. So it's sort of a silent means of promotion or a subtle means of promotion. You're just chiming in. These are my favorite authors, and mention other authors. Don't, here's my book. But yeah, if it's fun for you, do it. But if you're doing it because you think it'll sell books and you wouldn't otherwise come anywhere near these places, then I wouldn't bother. I remember briefly poking into Goodreads. There was a science fiction romance forum when I was coming up with the pen name. And it was a fine site, but I just find I am not reading enough right now. I'm probably reading like 2 books a month compared to these people who are reading 2 books a day. I'm just not that up on what's really popular. And a lot of the stuff in my case, I don't really like what's really popular. I'm one of those people that started writing because I couldn't find the kind of stories I really enjoy reading. I'm always really envious of people who love everything, because I love those people. They're the best readers, and I wish I could be like that too. I hate being kind of picky. But so I personally wouldn't have a lot to say in these kind of groups. So I've not really looked into them. And as far as just selling books, and I would just more look at what's selling on Amazon. If you're trying to get market research, just kind of read those top 10 books in your category. All right. Any final thoughts, guys?
Not really. I think we about covered it.
Yeah, I'd say we're fairly thorough this time around.
Wait, can you... wait, we've got a question on Twitter.
Ooh.
I decided to click. Okay, Nikolai, am I saying your name right, Nikolai? Probably not. Can you speak briefly on strategies you've used to maintain your production schedules, hit deadlines, and not procrastinate?
Turn off the internet.
Oh, not me, right? Like, wait, what? You want me to turn off Twitter?
Get rid of distractions, man. For me, it is the internet, and just I found that I can't have a radio. Well, I can sometimes have a radio going, but if it's a good song, all of a sudden, that's like, ooh, shiny object, and I'll just turn. So no, it's got to keep it fairly quiet.
Yeah, I agree. Like if I find myself slipping, it's because I've been indulging a little bit too much in the internet. So I'll sort of go through a period where give myself business hours, where it's like, all right, alarm goes off, get out of bed, at the desk an hour later, and you are writing until lunchtime, and then you are writing from lunchtime until this time, and then you can go do your other stuff. And then once I get into a reasonably good groove again, I can start feeding in the other distractions and find an equilibrium. But for the most part, yeah, the internet needs to be avoided in order to meet deadlines, and also, making yourself
Phones.
accountable, like with a word. Oh yeah, the phone too. Making yourself accountable with a word count. And when it comes to distractions, I find listen to video game or movie scores. Like they have no words, and they are made to sort of focus your attention. And if you can match one to the tone of what you're writing, then it'll sort of help move you forward as well. I did a lot of that for NaNoWriMo. I had this Sherlock Holmes motion picture soundtrack playing for my steampunk writings.
Nice. I hadn't thought about that. I'll have to give that a try.
All right. I'm agree. Cut off the internet. Although, do you guys find that you cut off the internet and then you start checking things on your phone? Like, wait, I've still got cell reception. I can totally get on Twitter.
Hence the disclaimer about the phone.
All right. Yes, put the phone in the other room. And I think setting deadlines for yourself is really helpful too. In my case, my editor has gotten quite popular since I first started using her, which is awesome for her. But now I really have to like book her about 6-9 months out because she's got people booked in those times, and she's been great about leaving me like a slot each month. So I feel like I really have to work to make sure I have my book ready for that slot. So sometimes when you're self-employed, you technically don't usually have deadlines, but you may find that if you set a deadline, you'll be more likely to work towards doing it. So, and also way back when we had Rachel Aaron on the show, and she was the author of 2K to 10K. So maybe go find, if I think of it, I'll post the link to the older show. That's a good one to listen to. She gives a lot of tips on staying motivated about what you're writing and how to improve your word count each day. And okay, I happened to look at the YouTube video, and we've actually got some people listening. You guys are awesome. Look, here's a question from Nix. What name would you use for your copyright, and do you always have to show it in the book? I use my name.
I use mine as well.
Yeah, I use the same name that's on the cover of the book, and I do put it in the cover of underneath the title of every single one of my books. My name, the copyright symbol, and the year.
All right, I'm realizing that question was a while ago, so it's probably when we were talking about pen names. In that case, I would just do it under the pen name, but I've never actually registered the copyright for any of my books. Some people do. Some people don't worry about it until there's a litigation issue. It's up to you. If you write a lot of books, it may not be worth it. If you're worried about it, you can register your copyright. And I actually don't know the answer then, what you would do. So I apologize if you were trying to register your copyright under a pen name. You might have to do it like a doing business as, register your pen name kind of as you would like a business name.
Yeah, I believe that when you're copywriting something, then you copyright it sort of independently. So whatever, you would copyright something written under a pen name under your real name, I believe. And again, sort of, I'm sure that I have copywritten stuff, but it's a very long series of forms, and I can't remember. I guarantee there's a section for author name and then a rights holder or whatever, and the author name might be the pen name, and the rights holder would be you. But yeah, I would say that it's going to be your legal name, whatever it is going to be in some way attached to the official copyright if you're going through official means.
All right, I think this will be the last question from Jeff Haskell. Do you worry that doing box sets will cannibalize sales of the other books?
Quite the opposite. Usually, if you do a box set, I mean, you're looking for, yes, the profit from each book is going to be diminished, but if you sell more of those books, then that makes up for that. So, I would say no.
I think that like obviously having a box set means that fewer people are going to buy the individual books that are in that box set. But I don't know that that really works out that way, because a lot of times people will be like, I don't want to have to buy 4 books to get, this guy's got a 5th book out. I don't want to have to buy 4 individual books to get up to book 5. And they might never go back and read any of your books. But if they see that they can buy, make one purchase that will fill in the gap in their in the plot for them, then you might get all of those sales. So I think it's a situation where most of the sales for the box set are sales that you wouldn't have been getting with the individual books. But that's a theory. It's kind of hard to actually prove that.
Yeah, I think they probably do cannibalize it a little bit. This is why outside of running sales, I usually won't leave the box set at like 99 cents. I'll put it back up to, so it's a little bit of a deal. Maybe it's $1 off. But if they drop $8.99 for box set, I'm still getting a nice chunk of change from that. And a lot, you have to figure too that they're committing to buying 3 books essentially, when maybe they wouldn't have even gone in past book 1 in the series if they hadn't gotten the box set. So but that is the reason I will usually kind of wait until the steam is stopped on the series from the original launch, and I'll put them out a little later. So yes, maybe a little bit of a concern, but after sales have died off anyway, at this point, you're just kind of looking for a way to get the ball rolling again. So that's when the box set can make a lot of sense. And if you do really feel it's cannibalizing sales, you can just jack the price up so it's like exactly the same as if they bought the 3 books individually. All right, that is everything. I believe I caught you guys. Thanks so much for listening and watching live. I should mention, I always forget to mention, that we do record on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we've usually got the stream going to the YouTube channel under Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast is the name of the channel. So if you ever want to watch live, we will try to answer your questions. I'm much better about looking when we have a guest on and there's more lulls when I'm not necessarily talking. I'm not so good at talking and reading at the same time. Sometimes I'm not even good at talking at the same time or by itself. But anyway, that's it for tonight. Do you guys have any parting thoughts before we sign off?
No, just thanks for watching. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so.
Yep. All the standard podcast stuff. Listen, subscribe, leave a comment, all that great stuff.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And if you want to do any comment on anything we talked about in the episode, come on by the site. This is episode 111 at marketingsff.com. That's it for this week. And like I said, we have a great guest next week, anthologies. Find out how to make money doing them. Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone.
See you next time. Take it easy.
So long, everybody.